Okay, I'm back actually pretty quickly. And this one has no point to it either. It's just me getting my thoughts out there. And it's because I'm reading this book called Blood Over Brighthaven. And it's kind of like a class um it's about magic, but they're tackling like colonialism and class systems, the divide of wealth and the wealthy and the poor. Um like superior races and those types of themes. I haven't finished it, but I've gotten to a point where they mention how even during dire circumstances, good people, could become corrupted, like when it comes to survival. And I was thinking on that, I was like, huh, that's an interesting thought. Because you do see it when, like, man, like you're kind of seeing it now. What during COVID, like that was such a big eye opener of how humans are and will be and just how they are at their core when it comes to fending for yourself and your family. You're going to choose yourself. You're going to hoard resources. You're going to go and stock up on toilet paper. You're going to clear off the shelf of all the food, not caring if your neighbor's going to go hungry or not. And that was such a an eye-opening event for humanity. And this has been here forever. When it really comes down to it, people have no choice but to fend for themselves. They will shoot their neighbor if their neighbor is starving and trying to break into their house to steal their food. Good men do become corrupted. And then I got to a point in the book where they're now tackling like how everything went to shit. I hope it's spoilers, but whatever. uh I'm not gonna edit this either, so I'm just gonna one take it because my mind's going everywhere with this. And I woke up and started reading and got to this part where everything fell to shit, and it's just been in my mind while I'm reading. I'm like my mind's trailing off, thinking on stuff. Um, but we see how like the quote unquote rich people, they're the mages, so they're kind of like the higher echelons of the city, which is like an allegory to rich people. And we see how they view the poorer people, the other races, as inferior. They view them as animals. And that got me thinking they see them as like uncivilized beasts. And that's honestly how the rich people see us, everyday folk. They don't really see us as human. Their actions show that. Building data centers that are stealing our water and, just like creating practices and systems that just do not benefit anybody else but themselves and what their agenda is. They really deem us as lesser than. And then on the same side of the coin, we view them as uncivilized. They view us as uncivilized because we're fighting each other over resources and become savage, to make ends meet. We'll fight each other and shoot each other over gas because gas is $10. They pass by in their armored car and they see us doing that and they're like, man, such animals. And then again, like I was saying, on the opposite side of the coin, we view them as uncivilized because while we're over here hungry and fighting for resources, they're hoarding it. They have so much money that they could help and change people's lives, and they do nothing good with it but build for themselves. While people are starving, they have the money to change it, but they don't. And then that got me thinking on the lottery. The government could set that up to like because even at the government, like they're all dressed in suits and ties. They get $100 stipends to eat food every day. They have no lack. They get their needs taken care of. They have an abundance of money. They have a bunch of bribes and contracts dealt to them. Their career after being a politician is essentially set. They're set for life because they're going to land a job because they did a kickback bribe to somebody, you know? They're going to luncheons and galas and having king crab for lunch, you know? Things that normal people have never had in a day in their life. And they, I lost my train of thought of where I was going with this, but the lottery, they could literally set that up to see how poor people become. It's like a social experiment in a way. Like, hey, let's set up this lottery, give them a chance at having our type of wealth, and let's see what they do with it. And you would think, like, hey, the people who have none, when they get some, they'll help others who don't have none. But no, more often than not, you see lottery winners become just as selfish. They go live the lavish life. They go eat their king crab. They go buy their Bentleys. They go buy their mansion. And shortly after, they become broke. They don't manage the wealth. They don't usually help others. They distance themselves. They cut off their family. They cut off their friends. They claim the lottery ticket anonymously. And that's such a good window to see how people are the same across the board. They're gonna choose themselves. It doesn't matter if they come from wealth and they've never had a hard day in their life like that, or if they come from struggle and poverty and they've worked themselves to the ground to get out of it. Once you get money, you don't help others. And this book's like kind of making me cynical because I've known this about humanity. But then on the other side of it, I also see how those who come from nothing do help. That's one of like the cool things about immigrants and like people of color, you know. Tipping culture is a good like window to this. You'll see a lot of people who come from money, they won't tip. They'll leave like a quarter tip, $1, or they'll scoff at the idea of leaving a tip. But when you say you have like a an immigrant family who knows service, they know how shitty it is, they'll tip $20 even if all they have is 40 in their pocket, you know? They'll look out for the people who they resonate with. You're like, "Hey, I know this shit sucks, so let me help you out." And I don't know, why don't those type of people ever get the money, win the lotto? Why is it always the selfish people who won't tip? The ones who are me coded and will hoard the toilet paper and the food in the first place. Again, I don't know where I was going with any of this. It's just my mind's been on this. And I'd like to think that if I ever got crazy amounts of money, if I ever won $1 billion lottery, I would go help everybody. I've said this to my friends. I've said this to people on the internet too. It's like if I ever won like that, I would go build homeless shelters. I would go donate to food programs. I would go do these clear the list things. I would donate to charity to help cancer research. I would fund artists, you know, and not care if the money was gone after that. And I know I'm like this because just with the little that I've gotten from having a job, I do with it, you know. I help and I change as much as I can with it. Change a life here, help a friend there, help classroom there. I think me growing up in poverty helped this too because like I didn't get attached to material things. I've always saw money as evil. But now after like having it, no, it's not. It's the user, you know, because it's a tool and it's how the person uses it. Yeah, I can hoard for myself and just accumulate it, which I do because you got to have a little nest egg. But I still use it to help people. I still think of others first. Like, hey, let me gift this person something that'll make them happy. Hey, this person's struggling. Let me send them something to help them. Hey, let me go clear out this list or send a couple of items. Because while it's like not a lot, it's still a lot to them because they don't have it. And I don't know. This book's got me thinking on all of this. I'm still curious to read it, to finish reading it. But the politics of it, it's like money isn't evil. For the longest time, I thought it was. And then I was thinking, I changed my mindset on that. I feel right now that power is evil, the position of power. That is what corrupts the man. That is what turns them selfish, you know? But is that true too? Because with power, you could influence positively as well. Just like how I was thinking, oh, money's evil and it corrupts everybody. But then when I got money, it's like, no, no, it doesn't. It's if you let it. But then if I were to get into a position of power, would I make changes that only benefit myself? No, I wouldn't. I'd try to help others. And then that just got me to thinking about civilization in general. This has been here since the dawn of man. People rule, they conquer, they implement systems that benefit them and society at large that they deem best. But then are they? And then meanwhile, people are struggling. Those positions of power, those men in power, all thought they were doing what was best. But then the people who have none want something else that's what they deem best. And you see that today too. The people in power, they're deeming what's best to keep people civil, how they can benefit too. But I can go on a tangent on that all day. And then the people who have none are like, man, implement some socialism here. Give us some free healthcare. Give us some free school lunches. Take care of our kids. Give us daycare. Give us maternity leave and parental leave, you know? Give us some vacation time. We think that's best for us, but they're like, no, 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 no. You guys can't have none of that. That's not what's best for the collective. That will destroy the status quo. Me, I'm all about destroying the status quo, but then that got me thinking, what if the status quo is a good thing too? It keeps, because right now, this book, they disrupted the status quo and everything just turned to shit. And that got me thinking, like, what? Imagine if we went and burned everything to take back power, to get rid of these corrupt politicians. Just imagine it. I lost my train of thought again because I went somewhere else. I went with the Epstein files. Like, because this book right now is revealing, like, they revealed truth, and that's what disrupted the status quo. And I was just thinking, like, we get revealed truth and then we do nothing with it. We find out that there's pedophiles running everything and we did nothing with it because people are happy with their comfort. They'll take that evil. They'll take the evil knowing of colonialism and conquering and slave labor and child labor to enjoy their things because that's easier than confronting the reality that of what it's built on. It's easier to look away and just enjoy your family and your things than it is to get up and go confront pedophiles because the fuck. They look away. We've always looked away because it's nothing new. There's always been corrupt people in history. They're born from it. They take inspiration from other leaders before them. And nothing really changes. The status quo keeps people comfortable. So why would it change? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with any of this. It's just my thoughts going there. All this. 'Cause me, I'm like humanitarian, so I'm like, fuck the systems, help the people. But then the systems kind of help the people cope. They help them stay in control. They help them live. But then it doesn't help everybody. They let people fall through the cracks. So then at that point, what good is the system? What good is the status quo if people are falling through the cracks? Do you bring it down and just create chaos like this book where they're burning everything? And then if you did do that, what do you build it? What do you build after? How do you find a system, a new system to replace it that keeps everybody's needs in check? Can you hit everybody's needs? I don't know. But when you burn everything down, you get the chance to rebuild, yeah, but what do you build in place of it? I guess we're gonna see because of Pluto and Aquarius. This is the generational transit of transformation and death and rebirth and systems that aren't centered around humanitarianism because Aquarius, they're gonna collapse and we're gonna rebuild something new. That's kind of why I don't stress about a lot of what's going on today and what's being revealed because I know it's just the beginning. This is literally like year one of the transit, and it's a 20-year transit. So shit's gonna change. It's just a matter of truth being revealed. We just got it revealed to us. But then what do we do after? What do we replace after? What system do we build? And then this reminded me of my friend's quote. Uh, it's easier to build something of light than to fight darkness. It's harder to fight, you know? It's easier to build. So what do you build in place of it? It's like, yeah, that's going to collapse. The system and the status quo are going to collapse because truth got revealed. It's only a matter of time. This transit is going to encourage change. But what do you build in place of it all? I'd like to think we're going to head towards community gardens, you know, taking care of your neighbor, making sure they're okay, sharing masks and resources. Because we're clearly being shown that the government doesn't work for us. They work for their own interests and what they deem best in their own pockets. They're uncivil. And then they deem us as uncivil, and it justifies why they can do all those things for themselves, those policies and changes, trying to control everything with the surveillance state. But what do we build next to that, you know? Because that's may crumble, it may not. We don't know. But what can we humans who come from nothing and have nothing, what can we build to either replace systems when they fall or to work next to them? I don't know. Yo, I've talked for 18 minutes. What the fuck? These are just my thoughts. There's no like object to this. There's no end goal here. It's just I was reading it, my mind was racing, and usually when that happens, I start writing. I wanted to write just because of that lottery thought. Like, man, the lottery is such a great social experiment for the rich and the government and the people in power to see. Let's give them money and see what they do with it. Since they claim they care about each other, let's see if they actually care about each other. And more often than not, nobody does. They go on vacation, they buy their mansion, they live a big life, and then they go broke again. I don't remember hearing any lottery winner like helping people. But then again, the news probably wouldn't even show that because then the rich people own the news. They don't want people seeing what poor people would do with money. Imagine that. Imagine if I won the lotto, went and changed a lot of people's lives, and then the news didn't do anything with it. Because if they did anything with it, that would conflict with the whole notion that they can't do anything for us. But people with less than can do when they can't. that would expose them for the frauds that they are and how heartless they are. But anyway, I think I'll just end it here because I don't know. I got busy, so if you hear a tonal change, that's because I came back after the day was over and I'm tired. But yeah, I don't know. Just random thoughts that were in my mind and I had to get them out. I would have wrote this, but I didn't have no energy, so it's easier to just talk to the mic. But yeah, till next time.